Hello, word nerds, and happy Sunday. Welcome to our Three Dark Crowns book club. And I, for one, am very excited to talk about this book. So first question, as always, is what do you rate this book? And Megan, I want to start with you.
Okay. So I waffled for a very long time after I finished the book 3 hours ago about whether I was going to give it 4 stars or 5, because I didn't feel like I disliked it, because I definitely really enjoyed it. And it was one of the few books this year where I was like, okay, I'm definitely going to read the next one. But there were also a lot of questions I had. So for the purposes of this, it's a 4.5 on Goodreads. There were a lot of lower reviews, so I put a 5 because I did really like it. But yeah, we're going to get all into it, I'm sure.
All right, Kelly?
It's going to be between a 3.5 and a 4. And a 3 for me is I did like it. But and I loved it at first, and this book feels rather, other than the darkness, it was made for me of magical multiple sister stuff I love. But it lost me a lot in the middle. It's oh, really? Nothing's happening right now. So picked up at the end.
Yeah. All right. Erin?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to say 4 out of 5 stars. And I do this thing a lot where I read a book and I'm I have all these feelings, but I'm not really sure how to articulate them. And this is one of the most confusing books for me, because I'm did I love it? Did I hate it? I hated it first, and then, but I'm definitely gonna read book 2. So
I already checked it out from my library. I already have it on.
So 4 out of 5 because it just sucked me in so much, but a confused 4 out of 5.
All right, Emma?
I am also somewhere between 3.5 and 4, I think. And I'm also very conflicted by it because I enjoyed reading it, and I didn't really struggle to read it. Anytime I sat down to read, I was able to pick it up and get into it. But I also feel it's kind of a flawed book, and plot wise it isn't great because nothing important really happens until the last maybe 100 pages, if that. So I was constantly waiting for Beltane to start because they kept talking about it, and then it was the very end of the book, which I thought was an odd choice of pacing.
Yeah. Helen?
Kind of the same. It's been over a year since I read this book and I listened to it on audio. So I was trying to think back to how I felt, and I remember having that okay, this is probably a 3-star for 80% of the book. And then the last 20% ramped me up, and I was so stoked on everything that was happening that I gave it a 4-star. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm much the same. I think it's 3.54. I love high concept books so much. And this is definitely one that I love the concept so much, but there are definitely some problems I have with especially the middle. I have a lot of problems with the middle, and definitely parts at the end too. So yeah, I'd definitely say a solid 3.5. All right. So the first question or the second question I have for you guys is, if you were in this world, which of the gifts would you want?
Ooh.
I'll go first. I would want to be a poisoner. I just really like the world building for the poisoners, first of all. And I don't know, just something that seems really, really badass about being able to eat a bunch of poison without dying. And I think poisonous snakes look neat, and to be able to wear one as a necklace would be kind of
That was
cool.
very cool.
Yeah, I thought that was
aesthetic.
Really neat. Yeah, so I basically want to be a poisoner for aesthetic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. My favorite of them were the poisoners for sure, but I have such a phobia of vomit that even if I was actually a poisoner and I knew that I would be fine, I couldn't do it. So
Plus we have to poison other people, and I assume they would vomit. So no, thank you.
Not into it
Choose
at all.
the right poison.
So
yeah, exactly what Megan said.
So Megan can be a poisoner.
I would definitely want to write poisoners.
But yeah, so I would either want to be a naturalist with a kitty companion, or I would want to be an elementalist with an affinity for fire.
As soon as I read
Nice.
the naturalist, I'm like, oh, magical pets. I'm on this team.
Yeah. I'm gonna be a naturalist, but I want a cool familiar. Like I don't want something lame. I want like a mountain cat, like Jules.
No,
said.
I want something like excessively uncool, like a hermit crab.
Like a
Like, my
squirrel.
familiar's molting, sorry.
So pretty much everyone wants to be a naturalist, right?
No, I would like to be an elementalist
Okay.
with
That's
fire
cool.
as well.
Ooh, that would be very
Oh,
cool.
cool. I'm the only poisoner. I figured that was gonna be the case, but it's just really cool. And like the way that they described like making your own poisons really reminded me of potions. And like I'm so here for that. Like I'm not a Slytherin, but I get super Slytherin vibes from poisoners. And I just
For
love
sure.
it. Yeah.
I
They're
definitely
all
thought the like
dicks.
poisoner vibe was really cool, but like also thinking about the three, I'm like, unless you have enemies to kill, which like maybe you do, being a poisoner is not all that useful.
Yeah,
And I kept thinking, like, how are these guys the threat? Like,
Yeah.
their intrigue is the thing that is keeping them in power. Like, being a poisoner,
Mhm.
like,
They're
yeah,
just immune
you're
to
really
poison.
sneaky.
Yeah.
I like the aesthetics of it too.
Oh,
But yeah, like to me, that's kind of a boring power.
Like I know the
Fine,
question
fine,
wasn't like
fine.
we get to be a queen of a thing, but like of the three, the naturalists were the only ones where I would like want to be raised by these people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's true. I would definitely not want to be raised by a poisoner. Holy crap, that's child abuse.
Just a smidge.
Yeah, like every time I like would read something like that would happen to her, I would just be like, why is there no CPS in this world? This is not okay.
Why is
Somebody
no one
call
being
Child
like,
Protective
excuse
Services.
me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was making me so mad.
But I loved it. That was one of my favorite. It was probably my favorite opening chapter of every book I've read this year.
So
Really
That's
good
hilarious
chapter.
because that's when I like messaged you guys and I was like, I think I'm gonna hate this book because it was just so like
I was
dark
expecting it
and-
to be awful, but then it was like so dark. And
Yeah, I liked
I-
the first chapter.
But
a
I
lot.
like dark, but I did it like it rubbed me the wrong way. I think it was the Genevieve girl. I'm like, I'm just too
Worst.
frustrated. I
Worst.
want to go into the book and kick her butt, and that's all I can think of. I'm not
Yeah.
concentrating on anything else.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
See, not so much like the very beginning of the scene with Genevieve, but like getting into like the feast and everything. Like that's all part of the
Yeah,
first chapter.
definitely.
And I thought that was really cool. And I felt like it like set up this like really cool tone of like, ooh, poison and like
Yeah,
darkness. And then
definitely.
it was like the rest of the book is just like them like waiting around for things to start. And I was like, cool.
I
Yeah.
had a really hard time with the first chapter because of my phobia of vomit.
Oh,
It got to the end and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna
Oh,
be able to
no.
listen
oh
to
no.
this book. And I like literally just recently I had to DNF a book because a chapter went into too much detail.
Mm.
And I was
Oh,
just
no.
like it threw me into an anxiety attack. So I was
Yeah.
like, the beginning of Three Dark Crowns gave me like a really similar feeling, and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to keep
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like for me a lot of I definitely felt a couple times like the pacing was off, but then
Mhm.
they sprinkled in those points of view from other people that felt very like I don't know, a lot of times it didn't feel very YA to me. It felt much more like an adult court intrigue, high fantasy. Like we're jumping over and seeing people moving things into place for something that was presumably going to happen at the end. And so while there were a couple of instances where I was like, okay, nothing is happening, there were a lot of them where I was like, okay, things are being moved into place. And if I watch, I'll see all the things being moved.
See, I wish there'd been more of that. I didn't feel like there was nearly enough of that. Like it was just basically the priestesses being like, "We're gonna kill everybody." That was like it. It was like, okay, cool.
I
We're gonna
kind of
stab
wanted
people.
less.
That was
Like I was like, I wanted the sisters, and I think Arsinoe's first chapter was a Jules chapter. I'm like, why are we here?
For a long time, I thought that I knew there was a twist at the end, and so I thought the twist was going to be that Jules was the princess.
Right,
And I was like,
yeah.
why are we here?
I actually saw this twist right from that first chapter. It's like the
Oh,
only
really?
time I've
You
read
are
that.
the one
Really?
that spot
Yeah.
twists, though.
No, she's
I'm the
terrible
worst-
at
I'm the
them.
What? Oh, I
I'm
thought
the
you were
worst
the
at that.
one.
No, Emma's good at it.
Yeah, I'm the
yeah,
one who
I'm
usually
good.
I am
passes it.
terrible. I never see them coming. And this is
Oh,
all I
okay.
know.
I read the last
Very
page
clear.
because like I kind of hate when like the twist is like on the last page because like a lot of
Yeah.
times I'm like flipping to see how many pages there are and then I
I thought I
see
had
it.
20
Oh.
pages left because it was an
Yeah.
ebook.
Yeah, and so like I don't like when they put them on the last page. I wish they put it a little bit earlier. So I like spoiled myself early on because I wanted to see how many pages the book was, and there it was the last line.
Oh,
yeah, we're definitely gonna talk about the end more later because I have lots of feels about the last like 50 pages of the book.
So much happening.
So much happening. Oh my gosh, the pacing of this book just.
And it's not a particularly long fantasy book either.
It's not. Yeah, it's pretty skinny actually.
Yeah,
it's like 390, I think.
Yeah, the audiobook is only like 9 hours, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, that's short.
I listened to it in a single day at work on double speed.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I read all but the first chapter today.
Okay, so of the three sisters, which one is your favorite?
Catherine.
Same. Catherine is my favorite.
Probably Arcano.
I'm torn. I don't like any of them, to be honest.
I love them all. I would die for them.
I don't know. Arsino maybe, but like this is the problem I had with this book. This was so conflicting to me because like a part of me was really drawn to the premise and everything that was going on, but I didn't find myself really attached to any of the characters, and usually I do. So I don't know.
Yeah, it was in one way it was good because I felt like I wasn't strongly rooting for one character to become queen. I was like, I would be okay with any of them becoming queen, but at the same time, I didn't really feel attached to any of them. And like I just was like about like I wanted Catherine to like be able. I will say I did like want Catherine to be able to like not be like
abused
and under the power of other people. And so I was like, I'd like to see her triumph a little. That'd be nice. but I just felt like I don't know. I felt like Mirabella was just like kind of boring. And like
I liked Mirabella, like her big trait was even though she was the most powerful, she really actively didn't want to kill her sisters.
Yeah.
I was kind of rooting for like let's all rise up, rule together and crush the system. So
I did like that.
Conversely, the moment that I was all in for Catherine was when she said, "I want revenge," and then I wore my crown.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm reading the next book.
I was finally one of these three queens is not wishy-washy. Because until like the whole book, they were kind of like, and I was like, none of them seemed to like really have any sort of goal or anything.
Arsino was kind of like, well, they're gonna kill me.
Well, you can see what's happening now is because like they all are like, Arsino tried to kill me. Catherine's like, I want my crown, and so it's like. They're gonna fuck each other up. Excuse my French. Like, it's coming.
Yes, I would have liked a little bit more of it in this one.
I was definitely team Catherine from the first chapter. Like literally, like I felt bad for her. So if I feel bad for a character, like I am there for you. Like so I was definitely like team Catherine. I think Arsino is extremely boring. Like
more interesting than Catherine. Like as much as I felt bad for Catherine, like Catherine's entire plot in this book is her just sitting around being like, Peter's really cute and a good kisser. And I'm like,
cool. See, to me, I found that interesting because like from the start, I didn't trust Peter. And so I was like, you are being manipulated, but you are so innocent despite being in such a dark world. Like I found that really compelling.
See,
she's lost some of that now.
Yes, which is also very compelling.
Yes, very. I'm really hoping.
Oh, really?
Yes,
what?
Oh my gosh.
I trusted
Peter. And so and like really like I was not prepared.
I currently do not understand his motivation at the end.
I think he really knows.
I think he thought that he was saving her.
Yeah, I think that's what she was going for, is that like he thought she was going to die anyway, so he had to like do this to save her. But I feel like there was a more merciful way to do that than pushing her off a cliff. Like, you know, like where she could just fall to the bottom and then lay there in agony for hours before she dies.
I don't think he really thought that through, but like the way that like Kendare Blake made sure to describe how it was going to happen with the like, okay, like trigger warning for nasty gory stuff here, but like they're going to saw her arms and her head off, and they talk about how the knives are like some of them are sharp but not all of them are sharp, and like, oh, it's going to take a while to get through the bone and stuff. So like, because they talked about that with Arsino when they were going to kill her, and so I think that she was trying to get that across to be like, oh, see, he thinks that he's being merciful when
Yeah.
he like kicks her into a well Spartan style, right?
Yeah, so
Like,
I
I
got
thought
what the
that he is-
intended motivation was, but I didn't think it really worked or made sense.
See, I thought that he was a zealot that was like manipulated by all the other stuff that was going on. So it was like, if you get away, come to me and I will finish the job.
Oh,
Mhm.
interesting.
I've read some spoilers about book 2.
Oh, so you know. Don't say
Well, say you don't want me to, but
I definitely, so that was one of the biggest problems I had with the book was Peter pushing her off the cliff, because I was like, so I didn't get the vibe that he was trying to mercy kill her. I was just kind of confused because when my mind keeps going back to where he saved her from the snake bite. So like that didn't strike me as like fake love, because he did it without thinking about it.
I think he does love her regardless of what he's done.
So I just don't understand, I guess. Like it just completely confused me.
But that's
He saved her from the snake, but also the night before pushing her off the cliff, they are making out, and he just like drags his finger across her throat, which is creepy.
That's true.
Yeah, but he was miming what he thought they were going to do to her, right? Which is why I was like, oh, maybe he's like ripped apart inside by the idea of this, and that's why he did it. But I mean, Emma's like, I know things. Maybe he has other, like, I think you can be like a zealot and like still he could be a zealot and do that because of a bigger cause and still be in love with her technically.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
that would surprise me.
Yeah.
Okay. So out of the whole book, do you have a favorite part? Like one part that specifically stands out to you as like the best?
Mm.
I had so many parts that like I wanted certain things to happen or was expecting them to happen, and I was like, yeah, F it up, and then it didn't happen. So I'm trying to think of one I actually liked.
Horrifying to me, but like weirdly compelling. And it's not like a gory part, but the part where Marabella has run away and sees this ship capsizing, and you just know that it's going to be Joseph's ship. And then he gets on shore and she has the elemental power, and then they bring back the description of the storms that are in his eyes, and you're just like, oh no, something terrible is about to happen. That was probably like the most.
That's the other biggest problem I have with the book. So
I have so many
choke.
I want to finish the question of favorite parts before like I just talk intensely about that scene. But yeah, so what are your favorite parts?
What would have been my favorite part would have been towards the end if Jules had slapped him across the face. That would have been great. I like wanted to see so badly. I was like, come on.
Yeah.
So annoying.
Or she just let the bear finish the job.
He like comes over to her house not to apologize, but to be like,
Well,
how
what did you
dare
do?
you try to attack Marabella with the bear? And it's like, excuse me.
I feel like there must be something more going on there.
Like
Like
something magical going on
Exactly,
with it or something,
yeah.
because of the like spell that
the
she threw in the
ramifications
fire.
of the spell, which is why I don't
Yeah.
totally hate Joseph for it. But
Still kind of
I hate Joseph.
Yeah, I hate Joseph.
I would hate Arsenal.
I didn't like
more,
him at all in the
though, if
beginning
it was her
either.
fault. I didn't trust him at the beginning.
But Arsinoe wouldn't have done anything on purpose, right? Like if she did
I mean, she
something.
participated in the love spell to begin with.
Yeah.
She didn't really have a choice.
Not really.
Though.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like we're
didn't know
here.
what was
we
going
can
on.
do it. Like,
Yeah. And then
She
she
had
like,
enough of a choice to burn it at the end.
True.
Yeah, because she was
But I
trying
mean,
to
if
be
she
like,
hadn't
no.
participated, her mom still could have done it on her own.
I don't
like,
hate
like you
Arsinoe.
did.
I think what magical or whatever her stupid name is. I hate her.
I hate her.
She's
I hate her
literally
too, but like Arsinoe does so little in the whole book that like
That's
for that to be
true.
the one thing you do,
Yeah.
and for it to be something that takes someone's like agency, I guess,
I don't think
away.
it was ever really explained to her what it was, and
No,
like
no,
as
it
she's coming to
wasn't.
grips with it, she's
Knew
like,
it was
nah.
bad. She
Nothing
knew
was-
low magic was
Nothing was
risky.
ever explained to her, and actually, this leads into my favorite scene is the corpse bear. That was so
It's so good.
Not fair.
But I was irritated because we after that happened, I didn't feel like there was no consequences for the mom.
Mhm.
Like nobody really talks about it afterwards.
Yeah, it's like, what happened?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I kept waiting for more of an explanation.
Yeah.
Of like, so like she saw the bear. I get it; it's not her familiar, but why was it a zombie? Like,
Yeah, why
like,
was
that
it
didn't make
undead
sense to
bear?
me.
Yeah,
And
before
was
we
it-
got to the twist, I thought it was going to be that like she'd done a spell that took away the familiar, and the bear was supposed to be her familiar.
Yeah, or that like the bear was supposed to be her familiar, but like it was never going to happen because the bear was dead, and so the magic like rerouted around that excuse and like raised it up, and then you're like, oh, this is why we don't do low magic. You know, 'cause
That would have made sense.
but
Yeah.
there was no explanation.
Yeah.
So
And
consequences.
but also
for-
like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
no, I was going to say she got her face slashed up, but you know.
Yeah.
go ahead, Megan.
I was going to say the emotions tied into that scene as well were really good.
Yeah.
The feeling of like,
Mhm.
oh, she's so confident this is going to happen. But
then-
good things don't happen to these queens.
Yeah, it could go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
What was with the aunt? The one. Do we ever even see her on the page? The one
No.
that.
Because she's
Hannah?
like, yeah, she's been like
At
banned,
the
like,
Black
basically.
Cottage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's like in charge of the Black Cottage where like the babies are raised. So
Yeah.
she's not allowed around everyone else. Yeah.
Okay, and then Magical, or is that how you say her name?
Magical.
Yeah,
I
magical.
Magical is like sleeping with her husband, I guess.
don't know if they ever got married or not.
They were, like,
It's not clear.
Together.
They were
They were like
definitely together.
dating.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
it didn't say it did. I remember there was a specific part that like mentioned that they weren't married, but everybody in town just like knew them as like inseparable.
Okay.
So like I don't think they were married, but like yeah, that
They were
match-
like going to get married and then she
Yeah.
was taken away.
that she took
Okay.
her.
It just seems so random to me that she was mentioned a bunch. And, like,
I assume she's just going to be bigger later, especially now that we know that something was
Something was wrong,
miscommunicated as they left that place.
yeah. Okay. Interesting.
My favorite part, much to like Helen's discomfort, is the feast.
It's
First on the
It's
end,
so good. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It is so good.
I love the descriptions of the poison food. So, like I said, I think poisons are cool. Like that's interesting. So, like talking about like the hemlock stuffing and the candied scorpions, like that was so cool to me. I was like, I just kept thinking about like that'd be cool, like a cool like fantasy cookbook. Like obviously, like not actually poison, but, like
Minus
that'd be, like,
poison.
yeah, minus the poison. But I think like that scene was just so cool, and I think that's one of the reasons I like Catherine so much is because one of my favorite scenes is at the beginning, and it's about Catherine. So, and like I said, I felt bad for her. So,
And the world building, I feel like, is clearly the strongest, like the most specific with the
in the first
poisoners.
chapter,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
So the poisoners, I that's another thing I was gonna mention is I feel like the world building kind of like starts really, really high and then like decreases as like the book goes on, and especially for like the naturalists and elementals, like poisoners was so strong. Like you knew, like I felt from reading them, like yeah, like I felt like I knew like how they dressed, how most poisoners acted. You talked about the Aaron family, and that gave some more like world building. How
Like what
they-
their parties are like.
Yeah, how they turn their nose at non-painted food. Like that's a lot of like, okay, I'm starting to get a feel for like what the people of this world are like. Whereas like I kind of got that with the naturalists too, but with the elementals, like
No.
I don't know anything about their world, I feel.
Because Mirabella spends all her time with the priestesses, not with the other elementals. So she's
Yeah.
not like, we never get any of that.
And honestly, elemental magic to me, with like the other stuff that's way more specific, it felt like, and everything else,
Yeah.
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 All the elements.
all the elements.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Mirabella and Joseph. Because so I again don't understand. So he's almost dying, and then they just sleep together. And so like I
It's
can
so fast.
it's literally
Yeah.
seconds. Like literally she talks about like helping him warm up, and then like I think 3 sentences later, like, and I was like, wait, what? And I was like, okay, let's see where this is going. And then when it happened again the next day, I was like, hell no, what is happening? What is actually happening?
Especially because they are teams. What teams are doing this?
And then they like run into each other during the hunt, and he starts pressing her up against a tree, like right after he's been with Jules, and you're like, "What is happening?"
That's why I feel like it's got to be like they introduced a love potion or love spell at the beginning, and to me, that's the only way that behavior makes sense, and it has like a tragedy.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I don't like it. Like, I get it. Like, this is one thing that I guess I kind of understand. I understand more than the Peter thing, but it doesn't make me happy. It doesn't make me okay. Like, I'm just angry.
It's like it's not a thing I really enjoy in a story plot either. Like the whole like, in love with this person, but can't stay away from this person. I'm like, okay, like, cool, like a jelly plot line, fun.
Like on the specifics of the magic, because after the spell happened, and then Jules and Joseph see each other, and everything, like, there's a weird like spark, but then everything's fine, and then it was just like, oh, this is just going to manifest when it's most inconvenient, rather than like giving it rules.
Yeah, for sure. And it just seems so like if he makes eye contact with her, everything falls apart.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the thing with the bear happening? Because I definitely did see that part.
Oh, it all falling apart.
Oh yeah, like, that's gonna fail.
No way that was happening.
Well, her doing her little wriggly fire dance, and then like the bear controlled by Jules, and he's like going towards the stage. I'm like, yeah, this is gonna go badly wrong.
But the way the crowd reacted too, kind of going back to the Joseph thing, Jules was saying that like everyone was kind of looking at her like that, which makes me think that like the people working around Marabella are probably also doing some low magic to like turn the people towards her even more. Like if they were gonna straight up murder people, like what's a few extra, love and adoration spells?
Well, she's also doing a sexy fire dance. That could also be part of it.
Like, so one of the questions that I definitely had, and I wish like we could have like had a scene with it, was when Natalia, Catherine's like guardian, when she was saying like, don't worry, I'll make sure there's no poison in the food. Like, how? Like, how did you do this?
I never see how.
I want to know how. Like, and it's not like we didn't have other scenes with characters that weren't the, weren't the main three. So like that would have been a really great scene to try to see, because
I think that's where I'm like, I would have liked to see more of the like behind the scenes, like moving pieces around, like more of like Natalia and the priestesses and stuff doing things. Like we just get like a couple conversations, but I would have liked to see more of them. Like
overall, more information I think is what this book was lacking, because for me it was more world building, like how the love spell worked, and like, okay, these three sisters have to kill each other, but why? Like, give us more of the
Why have some of them forgotten each other?
Why does one of them remember? Because apparently they're not supposed to remember.
She was the oldest, but maybe not.
Well, they're all the triplets.
They're triplets, so they're like minutes apart.
And they definitely talk about how like they're not supposed to remember.
Interesting. Okay.
It's interesting. I don't know, like, so I met Kendare like 2 years ago, and she was telling the story of how she got this idea, and it was really interesting. So bees, apparently when a queen bee, before the queen dies, lays like 3 eggs, and then the queen bees kill each other like before one like basically becomes the queen. And so like that's how she got the idea, and I think that's so interesting.
So cool.
I didn't know that bees were so murdery. Interesting.
So cute.
So murdery.
Fuzzy and murdery.
Yeah, I definitely think it's like a really cool idea. I was just expecting more murder within the first book. Like rather than the whole first book just being kind of a lead up to
the second.
Maybe they'll try and murder each other.
Knowing how many books there were in it,
I knew going in
the
there
time.
were a lot of books, so
how many are there?
4.
4.
Oh,
5? 4. No,
I think there's supposed to be a 5th, right?
I think it's 4, and then there's a book of novellas.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 4, but the last one is called Five Dark Fates. So it sounds like there's 5.
Okay. I Googled afterwards. I was like, how many are there? And then the Google response it gave me was 5.
On Goodreads,
They
it's
must
number
just be
4. This is the final. This is the conclusion. So.
Yeah, they must just be like
Are-
one in there.
How many are out now?
All of
All
them.
4.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Yep.
Wait.
Come out in September.
Yes.
Yes.
Ooh, okay, well,
I don't know how big it's gonna be.
So there's the 4 main books, and then there's the Queens of Fenbyrn, which has the 2 novellas.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay.
I
Okay.
probably will
Well,
not
I'm gonna
read
read the rest of them.
but I have everything else.
I got it from Hoopla. Hoopla's my favorite thing in the whole world. And I got the second one too, so I'm gonna read that. And I did not know there were 4. So I'm extra interested now.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's dive into this plot twist at the end. So
That Kelly saw.
I saw that coming. Out of everything that threw me off, I didn't know like necessarily like that Arsinoe was going to be a poisoner, but I thought that something was wrong. I thought that maybe one of them had like the war gift or something like
I knew
that.
she
But
wasn't like a
As
straight
soon as both Catherine and Arsinoe was bad, I'm like, oh, they were like swapped.
yeah,
I
so
was definitely like, something is not what everyone thinks
something's
it
not
is.
right.
Like, I knew there had to be something. Yeah.
I
So
didn't
it was
doubt
Catherine.
Catherine, but I did like Arsinoe. I was like, you're either not the queen or something is wrong with you.
Yeah.
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 I did have
So
a bit of
wondering-
that of like, Jules is really good at this, and she's really bad at this. But I'm like,
And they
Travis,
kept
you would
saying that
know,
her
right?
familiar was a queen's familiar, and I was like,
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
fact that they weren't like they were both around the same time. Like I could totally see how like that could have been an interesting plot twist.
Yeah.
But
I think
like
the one issue with Jules is that Jules doesn't look like a queen. Like it doesn't. They
Exactly.
all have
Mhm.
like black hair and like the same.
when they
eyes.
pointed out the eye thing, I was like, oh, well, I can't explain that away.
Yeah. I did also mention that sometimes there's a 4th one, and then they just kill the other 3.
yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Which again,
I wonder-
why? Like, how does this
Yeah.
system work? That like, okay,
Why?
we don't need these 3.
I wonder again, like if Catherine then, like initially I was like, maybe she is a naturalist because she had that bond with her snake. But then like, wouldn't she
Would've-
have noticed was
yeah.
And like, but
when the other snake came in and she was like, oh, it's my snake. I was like, why don't you know it's not?
and Griswold did ask like, what power would have allowed Cat to survive the fall? Understand
Yeah.
that you're not a poisoner, and I think that fits my swap because like Mirabella can clearly do what she's supposed to do.
Yeah, definitely. Like, and I was like, okay, so I was like, so is Catherine the naturalist? Like, I really,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
really
I thought
interested.
she was a healer, was what I thought. I was like, she's so bad at poisoning, healing must be her thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then there'd be 2 poisoners.
I was talking about how she was actually good at poisoning people.
Yeah,
She wasn't good at consuming it, but she's good at doing it.
right. Which doesn't take a gift to do though. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
anyone can
Yeah.
learn
And
how to
even like
poison.
her minor gift, you can build up a tolerance to poison, which she's
Right,
been doing her
yeah.
whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like if she's not a naturalist, then like it brings in like an extra question of rather than just like, oh, how did they get swapped? Then it's like, why did the last queen like assign them the wrong, like if it turns out she's something else, then there's like multiple layers. Like somehow the
other
other is a naturalist and the other person is something random that the queen mislabeled and
Wasn't there like a war thing or something?
Yeah, there's the
war and
The old
Right.
war gift, yeah. And
What is that?
I think that's what Kat's thing is. I don't think she's a naturalist because of the whole thing with her snake where like
Yeah.
when they replaced it that she would have
Right.
noticed. I think
So
she has the war gift, and I think that Arsinoe has the poisoner and then also the sight gift that's mentioned.
Yeah.
Because she has like she has some weird dreams that lead up.
Mirabella has
Mirabella has
Mirabella has
Oh,
that.
the-
Yeah.
So do we know what the heck the war gift is, or is that just
No,
another
it's
thing?
just
that's
been
going-
mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's
it's
been-
definitely gonna come into play.
It used to be really common, but now it's not very common
Yeah.
anymore.
And I feel like Jules is definitely going to be a factor somehow. Of
Yeah.
like because she was the first Arsinoe chapter, I'm like, you're more important than they want me to think you are.
He does have 2
Like a
different
force
colored
system.
eyes, which is like usually a trope used to signify like you're someone special, and put up against the fact that all the other girls have black eyes. I feel like there's got to be something there.
like a weird half sister or something.
Yeah, or like a fourth
Yeah.
one that got hidden or something.
And so
Yeah,
I feel
I
like it
would-
would have made more sense. Like the queen, like assigning them the wrong gifts would make sense if like Catherine had like displayed like any signs of like having the sight, because they talk about how like the sight like drives a lot of people mad, and I think it says something about how they'll like kill a queen
Yeah, they'll kill
Yeah.
them,
if it has the
Yeah.
sight. So like
So
that
she
would
had
make
to
sense.
lie.
But she has like
basically.
0 signs of the sight, so I don't think that's it.
And it could also
Yeah.
just be like if she showed any signs of having poison, they were like, oh, well, the other one must be the naturalist.
But it's but what I'm saying is like the
Who
queen,
knows?
when the queen gives birth, she like knows, and she says like this one has this gift, this one has this gift. This one has this
Do we
gift.
know that the queen instantly knows? Is that
Yeah,
canon?
that's what they say.
Yeah,
When the
Okay.
queen gives birth, she
I
knows,
don't
and she tells
remember.
everyone what they have.
She lied, obviously.
That's why I'm like, why did she say one of them was a naturalist if one of them isn't a naturalist?
yeah, like I think that's why like I want to read the rest of the books, because I feel like the first book is like act 1 and 2 of like act 1 and like half of act 2 of like a larger book, because I felt like the big reveal of like I'm a poisoner, like
That's
I
a plot
didn't-
point 1 right there.
Yeah.
I want that to be the end. Like I need some resolution from like these climaxes. Like can
We
have
didn't really get
a little
any
bit?
resolution.
We
like,
didn't like at all, and like I didn't like that, because like I wanted to know why Catherine didn't immediately say, "Hey, Natalia, your nephew pushed me off a cliff." Like that would be the first thing out of her mouth.
By the way,
By the way, he tried to kill
Just
me.
heads I really like, there were so many times where I'm like, can you please just kill everyone? Like I wanted Arabella, when Elizabeth's hand got chopped off, I was like, okay, this is it.
I kept
She's
thinking
gonna
that
go-
too. Like surely she's going
Yeah.
to start
She's
murdering.
gonna snap and just murder all the priestesses, and then nothing.
She didn't do
and then
anything, which seemed really out of character for her.
I was so annoyed. And then there was another time I wanted to. Oh, and I really, really, really wanted Catherine to murder Gwendolyn. What's her name? The
Genevieve
craft-
or whatever.
Thank you. Yeah, I really want her to just like
I assume she
Poison.
will do that.
I'm hoping so. Yeah. Give me revenge and then give me my crown. Okay, as long as that involves like poisoning.
Because Catherine must know that something is up with herself. And
Mhm.
if
Yeah.
it's the war gift, then she probably has some strategic skills and knows not to tell anyone close to her.
Mhm.
Like Natalia's
question about
related
how
to Peter, so like
Survived. No.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go get book 2 like tomorrow.
Yeah. I just there's
Yeah,
so
I'm-
many things that happened, and I'm just like, but like nothing happens in the middle. Like, so
Yeah.
what are your opinions on the middle?
I didn't hate it.
I was still sucked in, honestly.
Yeah.
It was once again, it was like I enjoyed it and kept reading, but I do think nothing really happened between the first chapter and like Beltane, which is
Yeah,
most
I
of the-
Yeah.
I feel like one of the difficulties is that there were 3 points of view in 3
Mhm.
different settings.
Mhm.
And so it's really hard to build up an action-packed plot when you are having to do everything in like 3,000 words, and then you have to jump to a totally new place.
I
Yeah.
was just like probably like a quarter of the way through, I was like ready for them to like start the like
I do remember,
real plot, you know, like I was kind of
looking at
like
100 pages and being like, I'm not sure what the plot is.
yeah, and it just
Yeah.
kept being like, oh, it still isn't here yet. We're like buying dresses or like we're doing these low magic spells, and I feel like they could have done some of those things with like the rest of the plot starting already. I don't know, because it's like they have a year to try and kill each other, so it was like I feel like you could have started it a little bit faster and had
Get
them
on with
still
it
be
already.
Mhm.
And I could have done with more of the low magic stuff, honestly. Like, why is Arsenal
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
100% all in from the start when Madrigal's like, hey, you want to try some magic? Perhaps we'll make a love spell for my daughter / your best friend.
And in that scene, she's not in. Like, she's like, oh no, this isn't a good thing. We shouldn't do it. I'm throwing the spell in the fire. It's bad. And then, like, the next time it, like, is mentioned,
Like,
she's
here's
like,
my
fine with
arm,
it.
baby.
Yeah. It was like, last time
Yeah.
this was talked about, you were, like, not okay with it. And now you suddenly are.
Yeah. And I don't know like about her, but like I'd be really pissed if like my hand got stabbed and attached to a tree. Like with zero warning. Like, no, that's not okay. And how did no one notice all the runes on her hand and the bandages and the blood? Because this was going on for a while, and even Jules didn't notice until she like walked in and like saw it.
And the fact that she got her hand skewered to the tree, which resulted in Demon Bear and her getting her face messed up for life. Like, there were no words with Madrigal after that. Like, yeah, hi. You
literally the next time they come up against a problem, she's like, why don't we charm this bear?
Because bears really worked the first time.
What could probably go wrong this time?
Yeah. The logical answer was not just to be like, oh, we've been pretending the cougar's mine.
It's like something where, I feel like it could have been like a more condensed plot, and they could have just tried to charm a bear once instead of twice, you know? Yeah. Like it's like there's three different, I mean, one of them is like in the past, but three different storylines of them trying to run away. Like, Arsinoe runs away
that's
twice,
true.
And then Mirabella tries to run away too. I'm like, okay, everybody wants to run away. Like,
yeah, I really didn't need the part with Arsinoe and What's His Nuts.
Yeah,
leaving.
It was
like felt really random.
Yeah,
I don't get that Mirabella could stop them from killing Arsinoe. Basically, I feel like that was the only point in that plot line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because like Mirabella's reaction. Because Billy like doesn't like Arsinoe like that. Like they're not right.
I feel like that's probably going to become.
Like
I definitely get the sense that they have a very deep platonic love.
Yeah, that's kind of what the vibe I got. Like they were just really good friends, which is like I think there should be more like
I
like
friendships. It's growing. I think it's gonna be like a friends to lovers.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would love a platonic friendship, but I don't see that happening. Yeah, I bet it turns into more. I would
I would be real sad if all of these girls instantly fell in love with literally the first boy that I saw.
Oh gosh.
I'm sorry, welcome to YA. Where have you been?
I did feel
like disappointed with like Mirabella just like instantly being into Joseph, even if it was a magical thing. Like I don't know, I wanted like one of them to like not have the
or at least
like
question it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like what just happened?
When she met like Elizabeth, I was like, maybe there'll be a thing with Elizabeth, and it was like, no,
cool. I have hope that there could still be a thing with Elizabeth.
When did this book come out? In 2000? What?
2016.
Okay, definitely less queer books then. So like, who knows? Maybe
have done it.
I mean,
only 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Rude.
I definitely was kind of like shocked that like Mirabella still listened to like the priestesses after they cut off.
Yes,
like,
I know.
Especially since she had been like called like ill-tempered before, and like that just didn't.
She almost killed Luca when she first met her, right?
Also, that Mirabella never catches on to the fact that the priestesses were going to kill their sisters, even though Arsinoe says it. Like in the
that was a huge plot hole to me.
Yeah, when they bring Arsinoe in, Mirabella's there, and Arsinoe says, "Does she know? Does she know that you're going?"
Oh, right.
She's like, "Wonder what that means."
Mirabella doesn't say anything to Luca about it.
Wow. And she would, especially since she doesn't want to kill her sisters, and she has to know that Luca's not going to be okay with her just not killing her sisters. Like,
well, like by now she has to hopefully be like, okay, screw these priestesses because they like tried to kill her sister illegally. Yeah, tried to kill her sister illegally, like chopped off her friend's hand, like.
But she still doesn't know that they tried to kill her sisters illegally. That's the thing, is she like didn't figure that out.
No, but she stopped them from killing Arsinoe.
Right?
That first time,
It's like she ends she ends the book mad at Arsinoe, like, and not mad at the priestesses at all. Like she doesn't know that they were going to cut her sisters to pieces and throw them in the fire. Yeah. And I feel like she should have figured that out
I found Mirabella compelling because she had like a privilege that the other two did not. Like Arsinoe always knew she was going to die. Yeah. Catherine thought she was going to win, but was being abused. Mirabella was basically surrounded by these priestesses who were like, "You're amazing. Do what you got to do, but this throne is yours. All you got to do is prep to kill your sisters someday. We love you. Everyone thinks you're amazing. You have adoring fans."
She was also the one
that like trapped in this house all day, and we don't let you go anywhere.
She had to sacrifice people people, right? That was her.
Yeah, she had to do this.
Yeah.
Sacrifice one person in the book.
I wish they would have went more into like why. Like that's
Yeah,
another
that
like
seemed random to you guys.
like I
Yeah.
get why it was in the book. Like they were trying to show like Mirabella's not like, oh, she's not a cold killer, like she's really affected by this. But like this like that's I think one of the instances where we could have gotten more world building with the elementals.
It doesn't like strengthen her power or anything when it happened. Like
Yeah.
she'd like improved in her water gift, which was the one she was like weakest in or something, but nothing happens to her power after she does it. So it's like, so why?
What was
Of
the
lower
point?
magic to me. Like that sounds like them just being like, oh, we're gonna do this little ritual. It's technically lesser magic, but we're not gonna talk about that. Just do it.
Yeah.
And especially since Elizabeth was gonna be the one to volunteer, I would have expected them to talk about it more.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially like why? Like what are they telling them? Like they're
And, like-
clearly like, brainwashed. Like
Yeah. And since Marabella has this like this compassionate bone in her body or whatever, like I could see her being like, no, tell me everything. What
yeah, like why?
why? Tell me everything about her. Like
And yeah, and so also Elizabeth, like she wasn't like an apprentice. I think they said she was a novice. So she wasn't at the bottom rung. Like, so why does she never say anything about like being a priestess really? Like we don't get any kind of like insight, even though we have a character who should know at least some of what's going on.
I just anytime she was on the page, I lived in perpetual fear that something was going to happen to her woodpecker.
Yes.
And if I lose a finger on that woodpecker, I will riot.
Yeah. Well, when they came around the corner, basically, and they were like describing her as being downcast and stuff, I'm like, they've killed her woodpecker. It was
gonna burn this
book.
We've got a comment in the discussion section from Victoria. Ooh, it is weird talking about the first book after I've read beyond that.
I bet. We're like guessing all these things.
Yeah, and you're like, none of this happened.
None of this is correct.
You're all wrong.
It would be interesting, like after I read like the rest, to like think, like talk about like our theories, like because there's so much. Like I can't imagine how much more information is told in the rest in the other three books. Like just by how many questions we have after the first book and how the first book ends, and it's like, okay, well something's wrong. Why is it wrong? Like.
And Kyra has read, I'm pretty sure, all four, definitely at least the first three. And she said in all the other ones, she like struggled with the pacing a little bit, but that the endings were always like had the same punch as the first one did.
Oh, interesting. So what you're saying is I'm going to have to go out and buy all of them.
I think the Book Outlet Boxing Day sale is still on. You should check it out first.
So I just realized, like, you're talking about like how many characters there are and how it's like hard to keep all the names straight and stuff. I just realized that there's a Luke and a Luca in this book.
Yeah.
That happened, and I said aloud, really?
Wait, who's Luke?
Luke is the like guy who runs the bookshop in Archman.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a problem.
I was always like, I never knew what the point of his character was. Like, I was like, why is this guy here?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And I thought it was.
all he did was make a dress for Jules. Like, that's all he did.
Yeah.
So wait, Luke was the dressmaker.
He's like, he owns a bookstore, but he randomly is apparently good at making dresses and makes.
Okay.
So instead of buying a dress at that stall that sold dresses, they're like, why don't we just have this rando make one?
This rando book
Yes, he's
seller.
good at it.
Okay. Okay, I remember now. Which is, I just reread this book. Like, I literally just reread it, so I should know. But yeah, I thought that he was going to be like a love interest for like Arsino, like when they first introduced him in the shop. Like,
Or it
And-
wasn't clear how old he was at first. Like,
Yeah, it
they were,
wasn't.
They were like hanging out with him, so I thought he was just like a friend of theirs, and like, and Jules was like, "Oh, you like love Arsino or whatever," and I was like, "Oh yeah, maybe he's like a love interest." And then like later on, I was like, "Oh, I think he's like in his 30s."
I think it's just
Yeah.
old. Yeah.
I was imagining like Luke who runs the diner in Gilmore Girls. That was the age I was imagining. I did one of the big things that gave me pause because the pacing wasn't as big for me, but a huge weak point for me was that I felt like a lot of the secondary characters were not well fleshed out, especially around Marabella, but just generally too.
Yeah, like Bree completely fell off the page.
Every time she showed up, I was like, "Who are you?"
Yeah, like isn't it like so? Bree is the daughter of the woman who like took care of her. Yeah, like took care of Marabella, which and like they tried to make Bree seem like she was like a good friend, but like it didn't seem like that. Like
it was like surely Marabella would have a friend before this story starts. Let's throw in Bree.
Yeah.
It really just seemed like she was like a package deal with Elizabeth. Like they were her little.
And I thought Elizabeth was going to be really, really like big and cool, but then after they help her run away, like we don't see them at all, basically, except to be like, "We're still here. Everything is fine."
Yeah.
No one particularly minds that you got us beaten and
hand chopped off. Yeah, no big deal. It's all good.
And, like, they're definitely only there for convenience a lot of times. Like I remember like about the hunt when Joseph sees Mirabella again and Mirabella just like stops walking and her friends like keep going and walk off. And I'm like, wait, no, like that doesn't happen. Like you're not gonna just
keep like, hey, who's that?
Like my friends during a hunt surrounded by enemies. Like
yeah, my friends don't even let me walk to my car alone. They're not just gonna be like, "Hey, peace out." Just like enjoy yourself in this forest full of your enemies.
Don't kill you.
Like a nice guy.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Oh, another plot point that like I wish had been fleshed out more was Natalia and Junior's dad's like relationship. Like he's mentioned one time. And like, this long-time lover. I was like, wait, how do you know each other? Like, how long has this been going on? Like, why would you think the food is poisoned if you regularly come to see her? Like, what does she have to gain by making him the king consort? What is happening? Like,
to me, that
real random.
That was like one of the things that felt very like not YA fantasy to me. Was just like random cast of characters. Also, they're sleeping together. Like that felt very adult fantasy to me.
All these adults having affairs.
Yeah. Like also, they're gonna plan the downfall of the nation. So they have a good time together.
They have some sexy times together. Also, do we think that it was him then that poisoned the chocolates and therefore trying to
I think Natalia gave them to him.
Okay. Yeah.
He doesn't know anything about poisoning. He's not a poisoner.
Yeah,
he's like from the mainland, so I think she just gave it to him.
Yeah.
Probably got it from Natalia.
Yeah. I don't understand. Like Natalia's like motivation just does not make sense.
Yeah. Well, the thing that confused me about their relationship is that it's like because they like had a relationship and everything, and like they were like allies or whatever. That was why she sent Joseph to his family, because Joseph like stayed with his family the whole time he was banished. But then like this guy has like raised him like a son. And so but like Natalia hates Joseph. And so it's like, why would he have like treated Joseph so well when like his lover apparently hates him? Like it was kind of like weird.
I kind of got the vibe that they kind of hated each other too, though. That was like one of those kind of relationships.
Yeah.
It was kind of like weird that like, I don't know, just like from Joseph's side of things, they sound like this like really warm family that really took care of him and stuff. And then you like find out he's like with Natalia Aaron.
Yeah.
It felt like everyone was sleeping with everyone a little bit. It's like, it's like a Game of Thrones thing.
Very George R.R. Martin.
So kind of like YA Game of Thrones in a way because of like the character soup. It was like a combination of the character soup, like the weird spelling of really common names was very George R.R. Martin.
Well, they're all trying to kill each other for the throne.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like I don't know. Like there are so many characters, like I literally couldn't keep track of all of them. Like I wish even though Natalia was there for a lot, like she still didn't really get like fleshed out in my opinion.
Yeah. I found her like interesting. I felt like she had the possibility of being this very interesting, morally complicated character because she does obviously care about Catherine.
Yeah, that's what I like really liked. I was like, okay, so she really does care like about her.
I did like that too. I didn't see
Like-
that coming because she seems so cold at first. So I kind of like that extra detail. And the fact that she like, when she sees Catherine as alive, actually like gets like broken down and emotional a little bit. I was like, wow, I wasn't really she's such an ice queen. I wasn't expecting that from her. And I actually made me like her a little bit. So
Yeah.
which is hard to do after she literally killed a bunch of like dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
Oh,
okay.
I know she had to do it to protect the roost, but the puppies.
Oh, and the dude that killed the bastard pit. I was like, this is really rough. Like, wow.
What did you say, Aaron? I didn't catch that.
Oh, the guard that was guarding Catherine's fence that was like unnecessarily brutal, and she references that he taught her how to poison by killing a batch of kittens.
Yeah. Rude.
Rude. Yeah. Which again, like that felt like, I mean, like it was an interesting little tidbit, but like, can we like have an interesting tidbit about like the world building instead of this person that shows up for 2 lines, like literally 2 lines and never mentioned again?
Yeah.
And he comes back like randomly in the 3rd book.
Soon
Like,
he'll come back later.
yeah.
Pretty big series.
Yeah.
I mentioned how brutal he was. So I feel like if you're gonna drop that tidbit in there, you need to bring him back later for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
Another like little plot hole point that I had a problem with is when Arsino pushed the rune on the bear's head. Like,
oh yeah,
low magic is a thing that is known throughout the world. So like, she has a rune on her hand. Like she said, like she kept it cupped, but like she pushed the paper like onto the bear's head on stage. So like, why didn't someone say like, wait a second, what are you doing? Like that.
Like no one notices the like blood on the bear's forehead.
Yeah. I mean, I assumed it was a brown bear, right?
Yeah.
I could see why you wouldn't necessarily see the blood on its fur if it wasn't blood.
The problem I had with that was that
it obvious.
The problem I have with that was like the low magic didn't make sense to me in a way that like, okay, what do you mean by a blood bond? Like you're now done this magic to like bond yourself to him, but that did nothing. Like
she was still relying on Jules to control him.
Exactly. And then the bear, I guess the bear didn't kill her when he went on a rampage, but there was no mention of him like turning to her first and being like, oh right, blood bond, and then going into the crowd.
They were able to hug, which it doesn't mention that Jules made that happen.
I guess, but like I wanted to know more about how that low magic was working and what their blood bond was.
I thought that he was going to have a wound on his head where he touched her, but then it was like he opened his mouth and the wound was on his tongue, and I was like, so does she have to touch his tongue?
Yeah. But like after he goes on his rampage and he's like off in the woods, are they still blood bonded, or does that like
it was like that scene could have gone exactly the way it did if it had just been Jules controlling him. Like the blood bond played no role.
And I also thought like when Jules was in the woods and she first saw the like bear, I was like, is this gonna be Arsino's like familiar? Like, is this the bear? Like, that's what I immediately thought. That didn't happen, obviously. But like the blood bond didn't make any sense. Especially like it should have. It had the bear's blood in the like mixture too, right?
Yeah, she drank the blood.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure they mentioned the fact that like they would have to get blood from the bear, and like that's one of the reasons it was like extra super dangerous too. And then like they said that. She should have the control over it like a pet, like not like a familiar bond.
Did not.
No,
she should have been like sit.
No, I'm like, you can still tell your pet.
Oh no. I agree with the sentiment though.
Yeah.
You could still smack that bear with a rolled up newspaper and go, no, sit.
Similarly, most of my plot related questions revolved around the bear. But I felt like there weren't very many ramifications with Arsino and Jules, because it seemed to me like Jules, her emotions fueled her to make the bear charge Marabella. And no one was like, except for Joseph, I guess, was like, so something's
because she like gets poisoned like immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
It all happens so quickly right there at the end.
Specifically mentioned that the bear fixated on Marabella because of the fire. So I
because
didn't
it attacked Arsino too.
Yeah.
And Arsino also like jumped off the table.
But I didn't even like really clue into the fact that, oh yeah, Jules is ticked off at Marabella, hence the bear is charging her, because it just really was described like she was still dancing. There was fire all over her. So the bear's like, oh, shiny dancing thing.
Yeah,
I attack this.
I didn't get the impression either that like Jules specifically was like that it was like her directing the bear. I thought it was that she lost control because she was so distracted and upset.
I thought it was that at first, but then
Joseph,
I'm not gonna stop you from doing this. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
You go do your thing.
Joseph definitely accuses her, and she doesn't say that she didn't do it. Right?
But he has no right to accuse her. Like,
yeah, how dare he?
Like, no, like, boy, get out of my face. Like, I was so like one of the things that I think made me so mad about Joseph and like that whole situation is like he kept leading her on. Like after he was already
like, I don't understand what is happening.
Right. Like, at the end of the book, he's like, I won't leave her again. And you're like, what?
Yeah, you will.
Yeah, you will. Like,
bastard.
Like he feels so bad like when she's poisoned, but it's like
like I don't think your guilt is the problem here. I think you need to discuss what is happening in your head more.
Yeah, you need therapy, not a girlfriend.
Write a diary entry or something. Figure it out.
Like, assuming it's magic, which I would be really surprised if it's not magic. Like, it seems like the kind of thing you would want to tell the person that you claim to love. Like, something is very, very wrong with me. I'm not acting myself. I think something is up.
He doesn't seem like he realizes that, though. But you think there would be more like, what's happening to me?
Or that Arsino would be like, hey, Jules, I need to tell you this thing.
Yeah, that's another good point.
And this might be affecting your boyfriend.
Yeah. If she doesn't clue into it in book one, maybe she will.
Yeah. I mean, I can see like why like Arsino wouldn't tell Jules because like she doesn't want to lose her friend.
Mess up.
But like she really should be mad at Madrigal. Like Madrigal is the person that
this is all your mother.
It would be pretty easy to be like deflecting it to her mom.
Yeah. Madrigal, like I hated her so much. Like and then especially when she like ends up with her sister's boyfriend at the end, I'm like,
that's got to be a spell. It's
like,
got to be.
I wouldn't be surprised since she said that she wanted a suitor and that she wanted everything that her sister always got and like she was mad at her sister and like
so easy.
Yeah, and she even like basically said she hated her daughter a little bit because she reminds her of her sister, which is like real trashy.
Wow.
And like it doesn't, I wish it kind of explained more that like I know that Madrigal went to the mainland after Jules was born, but like it doesn't really explain. Like I wish we could have had like a little like something of like why she left, like other than like oh I don't want to be a mom, like bye. Like especially after she mentions the fact that she got pregnant, like when she did, to have a powerful child to love her. Did you think your powerful child would love you when you left? Like I don't know. I don't like Madrigal.
Nope.
So I was like looking back over like all the stuff with the bear, and like it does specifically say that like Jules like hold on the bear snaps. So like it's not her anger turning the bear towards the Mirabella. Okay. It's just that she loses her hold on him.
See, I knew she lost her hold, but I thought she regained it.
No, because it like just talks about how like he like is kind of like running across everything, and he like goes towards Catherine and like attacks the priestesses that come at him, and then like it just says it does not take the bear long to focus on Mirabella because she's still like covered in fire. And yeah, there's like no like really indication that Jules did it other than Joseph accusing her of that. Because then like when he's like, "Why did you do it?" She's like, I didn't mean to let him go."
Okay. Okay, good.
That's good at least.
Yeah.
Stick up for yourself.
Yeah. So she's lost control. Because like she's just controlling the bear. She doesn't have a bond with it like she does Camden.
Right, like Cam. Yeah.
But Camden does things because of her emotions.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So we've been going for about an hour. Is there any more pressing plot holes or things that you'd like to bring up before we head off?
Just that I'm now going to go out and buy all of the rest of the books. I know they're all out now.
Yeah, one of the things I really, really liked about this book that I really hope holds up in the following books was that I felt like there were a lot of different kinds of love in it that we don't always get, particularly in a fantasy. Like we had really strong familial bonds on Marabella's part. We had that platonic love with Billy. We had romantic love that was very old. You had lust and just like all of these different types of love in lots of different capacities, which I really enjoyed.
I really liked that some of the like bad guys were much more morally gray than I thought they were at first, rather than just like, black and white. Like I said with Natalia being like shaken by Catherine's apparent death, and how do you say his name? Peter.
I just
say Peter. Okay, the weird spelling, but yeah, and he's like legitimately attached to her as well. So yeah, I thought that was interesting to see that.
Like the attachment between Luca and Mirabella was really interesting too.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
For sure.
Another question. By the end of the book, does anyone have someone they want to be on the throne?
Catherine.
I want to see Catherine cut things up, but I don't know if I necessarily want to see her on the throne.
Yeah.
I want to see her go dark side and F things up, but then like I want the three of them to band together and burn.
Yeah. Really.
I don't think that she being led by the poisoners would be a good queen. So
Thrown into a bench situation.
And Griswold made a really good point.
Yes.
I just saw that. So he said, I wondered if Jules and Arsino had the same father, since her mom said she doesn't know who her dad is. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I don't
didn't
think
think that.
it's likely because like he would have been the king consort already at that point. So he would have already been married to the queen. So he would have been like in the capital city, not like in their little naturalist town, I'm assuming.
Would create scandal.
It would
That's true.
You never know.
You never know.
They do bring up multiple times, like, we don't know where the queen and the king consort are now.
Yeah, which I'm really curious. I really hope in one of the books, like, we get to like get a scene with like one of the past queens. Like, that'd be so awesome.
I'm really hoping there's something going on with like when Catherine fell into the pit, essentially. Like, I want there to be magic or something. There is magic. So
I want book 2 to open 2 Towers style. Just going with Catherine falling.
I know with like the former queens, like it kind of talks about like what they say happens is that they just like go to the mainland with their king consort and just like live there. But like I find myself doubting that they just get to go live a normal life in the mainland.
Unlikely, for sure.
I feel like they're dead.
Yeah. All right. So I think that is it. Thank you so much for coming to our book chat. I had a lot of fun talking about this book. It gave me all the feelings. Join us next week for another live chat. We are doing a write-in. So even though Nano is over, come and write some more words with us. And I hope to see you guys there. Bye.
Bye.